Hi everyone, my name's Jasmine and I'm a member of the Future Blue Youth Council. I'm joined today by Raúl and Sylvia, if you guys want to say hi. And just to remind everybody, the Future Blue Youth Council and their fellowship is started. The applications are open. They're going to close on August 1st. And we'll go over today all sorts of questions. If you have any other questions, put them in the chat. Send them to us on Instagram or via email. We're happy to answer them. And the fellowship is a program for youth to get fiscal and educational support for projects that advocate for their local waterways. So this means that uplifting teenagers who have ideas on how to educate their communities or have potential solutions to littering and pollution in their areas, or any other idea that can help their local oceans, rivers, bays, and seas in the ongoing climate crisis. And one of the ways we are supporting the applicants and anyone who's interested is by creating toolkits and webinars. So you don't have to actually receive the grant. You can view these and learn from them beforehand during the application process or at any time. So toolkits are up on our website. They'll be linked near this video. And this is one of our webinars. There's others as well nearby, I'm sure, on this page. But this one is the office hours one. So we're going to go over some questions. And if you have any questions, again, just pop them in the chat and let us know. So I think our first question for the day, I'm just going to ask Raúl and Sylvia to introduce themselves and tell us their favorite ocean animal, please.
And my name is Raúl Falcón, and I'm a Future Blue Youth Council member from San Juan, Puerto Rico. My favorite animal is the goblin shark.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Nika. I'm also a Future Blue Youth Council member. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. So a little bit far from oceans and bays, but still connected to water. And my favorite sea animal switches, but right now it's the dolphin.
They're both fantastic animals. Mine would probably be a whale. So our first, kind of grant question. You both are very experienced with kind of grants and applications, which is awesome. So what are the most important things to think about when filling out an application, specifically for this program, but for anything in general? What should people not forget to include?
So when filling out the application, you have to make sure that you meet all the requirements and details. Like, for instance, in the fellowship, it's educating, inspiring change, engaging, and advocating for water issues. So keep in mind also that only young people ages 13 and 19 can apply, as either individuals or groups. And the project must be new and emerging and have clear reasons that can be detailed reasons for funding. The deadline is midnight, August 1st, 2021. So keep in mind the evaluation criteria for applications and the clear demonstration of an appropriate budget, as well as resources that we've put up online in the fellowship website, like a guided project initiation that will also guide you through the process. There's also a lot of documentation you can provide that will improve your application's chance of success, like letters of support, social media posts, and news articles. So be sure to answer each question correctly and revise whether you're actually answering the questions clearly prior to submitting. So clarity is really important in the application and actually meeting the requirements themselves.
Yeah, I sort of second Raúl on meeting the eligibility requirements. It's always important, not just for this grant application, but maybe some others you're doing in the future, to make sure you really read the funders' eligibility requirements and see what kind of projects they're funding. As I always say, if you're interested in Mars exploration, that's really fantastic. We probably won't fund it. So just make sure that you read the eligibility requirements before applying. Secondly, I think the most important thing to include is concrete details. I think if I'm reading applications, I want to make sure I know the project well and I can understand it and it's not just vague. Like, I want to help the ocean, so having those eligibility requirements filled out and then having concrete details, so that the funders really just understands what your project is for, would be really important to include.
Yeah, those are great, not just for this grant, but applicable to any application, I think. The concrete details and making sure you're eligible very important first steps. So what is a grant? Can you break down for us of what is a grant? What does that mean? Yeah, just break that word down, and also maybe fellowship. What makes the fellowship different from a normal grant?
Yeah, so what's special about grants is that they're money given out by an entity. It could be a government, it could be a company. Some companies have like charitable missions. It could be a private foundation, or it could be the fellowship. But the money has to be used in a specific way, usually in a way that sort of brings about like communal or public benefit. And unlike loans, grants are really nice because you don't have to pay them back. But there are usually strict requirements for how the money can be used. And usually the funder has you do some sort of follow-up to make sure that the money they give you is used in the agreed upon way and that you're like following all the requirements agreed upon.
Yeah, so thank you, Sylvia, for the definition of grant. In addition to the requirements, you have to clearly answer how you will plan to use the fellowship's grant funds and the amount and itemized project budget using the program budget template in the application form. This will not only organize your project and ensure success, but it would also make you have that thing in mind, and so it's clear and easy for you to organize your project and ensure its success.
And sort of the fun part about this, the reason that it isn't just called a grant and it's called a fellowship, is that it's not just money that we're providing, it's also like mentorship, it's also support, it's also just a bunch of stuff. So that's sort of why it isn't just like the Future Blue grant. That's why it's specifically a fellowship.
Yeah, the fellowship includes a lot of mentoring and one-on-one conversations. That's why we're always open to any questions and sort of any ideas that something that might be not that clear. You can communicate it with us and we'll help you out because we really want to see these projects succeed. So that's part of the goal of the fellowship and sort of support and mentorship. That's why we're putting up resources like this webinar, along with the other toolkits and videos, and that will ensure your project success.
Yeah, I know I've heard from a lot of people so far who have kind of looked at grants and or this fellowship and been, okay, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't know where to start. Applying for a grant as a 15-year-old, 13 to 19 is daunting. But it's important to remember that if you have literally any questions at all, we are happy to answer them and we are here to help you. And then even after that, if you want to do something like create, I don't know, a film project or run an event in your community and you want to do that, but you don't know how, again, people in the fellowship, people at FBYC, they have done these things and they are super happy to offer any advice and information and kind of hold your hand along the way to get this going, because we really want to see the project that you guys come up with. That being said, what are your best tips for writing a successful grant? I've never actually applied for a grant, but I'd love to hear from you guys what all those tips are.
I think my biggest one is clarity. You could have the most gorgeous writing in the world, but if the funder can't understand what your project is and how their money is going to be used, it's unlikely to be, selected or provided funding. So that's my biggest tip.
So I completely agree with the fact that the clarity should be one of the top things to keep in mind when writing the application, and also coherence and organization, like completely and correctly answering the questions. Because many times you might try to answer a question, but it wasn't the one that we actually asked. For that reason, I recommend applicants to revise whether you're actually answering the question. Thus, some of the best tips for writing out a successful grant include revision, clarity, and coherence. You may ask others, either your family members, friends, or teachers, to revise your work prior to submission to ensure a high quality submission.
Those are great answers. Next one, we're going to be going back to just the project in general, I think. So if people are feeling overwhelmed, because that's a super common feeling to have, or they're nervous, which again, all of us deal with before launching into a big project or applying for something, how do you suggest that they kind of get going and overcome that a little bit. But what's the best place to start, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed?
So you can start with an idea and gradually develop that into new possibilities with a vision as to what would be like the most effective way to drive change in your community. You can also mention the idea to people that may support you along the way, and you can also flesh that out and make that vision into something tangible and real, a plan or something you can actually carry out and have measurable success. Your vision should be ambitious, but at the same time realistic. So you will have to make trade-offs along the way, but having an idea that gradually evolves into a vision that leads to a plan is essential if you feel overwhelmed about beginning your application.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I especially like the idea about writing down the mission and or just having that idea. I feel like that's helped me when I haven't known where to start. So if you have an idea, just write it down in one sentence, one paragraph, and then just sort of branch off of that. If you have that central idea and you have like friends and family helping you out, so you'll sort of figure out what needs to be done and maybe what other smaller details are needed to get your project together. But if you don't know where to start, just start with your general mission.
So last week we heard from Dakota and Katarina and Shay from Air Shore Oceans. We had our webinar with them. And one of the things we spent a long time talking about was how when you get going as kind of an activist or in conservation, or even as an artist, the first thing you kind of want to do is get yourself out there. And we were talking about kind of social media recommendations and getting it out in your community, so local news sources. But I think the more perspectives we can have on this, the better, especially because everyone's going to be applying from all over the world. So what would you guys say is the best way to kind of get your voice heard using either social media or events in your community or media in your community?
I think in my experience, local nonprofits or missions or projects really love helping each other out. So even if you just reach out and like send an email to a nonprofit or a project that has a similar mission as yours and just say, I have this project, I'd love to get the word out. Most of the times they're really excited and they really want to support each other. I think that's something that's really fantastic about conservation work or nonprofits in general. So I would honestly just start with your local nonprofits and just reach out. It's not scary. They're probably really excited to hear from you, and just, yeah, that's my suggestion.
So yeah, I completely agree with that. And you also have to keep in mind, you have to be genuine. You don't want to sort of be fooling people into believing something else. So genuine, it will actually help out in getting the word out about your project because people will feel a connection towards you and will want to help you. And so there's also kindness is really important because during your relationships, you're going to be developing with from friends to teachers to mentors throughout your journey. You have to sort of be very kind so that you can continue and be, first of all, be genuine. And if you're genuine, you're typically going to be kind because you're not going to be trying to hide things. You're going to be transparent. So that will actually help you out a lot.
Yeah, I agree. In my experience, being honest and reaching out to local nonprofits they're both fantastic ways. And don't be afraid to like email people or message them on Instagram. Like most people, especially if you're young, are so happy to help you out. And worst case, they say no, and then you move on to the next one. But that's such good advice. So if people are interested in getting the message out via social media or even in their local news or on a website, they don't feel like they're great at design, what is your advice for getting people interested in their project, even if they don't feel like they can use design as a tool to do that?
So you can definitely use tools like Canva, which has a lot of templates and resources. And so you can also then begin to developing this eye for graphic design, having a sort of branding with fonts, colors, and designs. And so you can also access resources like Bauseat's Studio for inspiration and access BioSeed's sort of guide, the visual branding toolkit we uploaded. That'll help you out a lot because it has some very specific and actionable ideas regarding design, especially if you're just starting out. And so if you still feel like you're missing something, you can seek out help by either emailing the FBYC fellowship at futureblue@bowseed.org or direct messaging us on Instagram. We can definitely help you out. If that's not your strongest sort of aspect, we can help you out and sort of support you throughout your journey so that your project's success so your project can have a lot of success.
Yeah, and I guess it's also, I know I struggle with design. Another point out there, it's okay not to be great at something. I know I struggle with design. Raúl is way better at design than I am. So there are people who can help you. Just like, as mentioned, there's the toolkit. But if you're really good at writing, capitalize on that. If you're really good at social media, capitalize on that. There are so many skills and there are so many people that can help you and resources. Don't get down if maybe one specific skill isn't your strongest point. You have a bunch of other strengths that you can pull from as well. And a bunch of people to help you too.
Yeah, I'd say pick your strengths, run with them, and then everything else you can figure out along the way. So I think we're almost at the end here. It's a nice short one. So what keeps you two going? Because it can feel really discouraging. I know when you're kind of putting together a project, you don't know what you're doing, or maybe you do, but it's still a lot of work. And especially with something water related, conservation related, it can feel pretty sad a lot of the time with all of the issues that are happening in our world. So what do you guys do to kind of keep you going? What makes you want to continue to do this?
So I feel like having a mission can really help you get through the tough days and sort of help you along your journey because you have this sort of idea and something that guides your actions and sort of your mission reflects into your actions. And so that will actually keep you going even if things aren't going as well as you thought. And so that's what keeps people like Greta Thunberg going a lot because they have this mission and that guides their actions and makes them continue persevering despite she has been criticized by many people and sort of discredited in many ways, but she keeps going because she has a mission and she has a vision about goals that she wants to complete that will actually help the planet out in a sort of selfless manner. And so having a mission will help you be a lot more selfless and actually motivated to continue going when things are hard.
Yeah, I really second that. I like what you said about just keeping going. Personally, I just have to remind myself that I'm not gonna, I don't know, change everything in one day or just make an enormous difference in one day. Even if I'm tired, I just do one little thing. I do 5 minutes of work, 10 minutes of work. Just any sort of step forward is a step forward. So that's what I would say, just building off of that.
Yeah, those are such good answers. I think also it's important to look around and know that you're not alone. Like there's so many other people working for the same things. There's all of us on the Future Blue Youth Council and all of the other people applying for this fellowship. So no one is alone in fighting for these things. So my last question for you guys, is there any other advice you have for anyone interested in the fellowship other than everything that we've covered so far? Is there anything we've missed today?
I think my biggest one is start early. This isn't, I think, something that you can just pull together. I mean, you can try, but I would suggest starting earlier instead of like a couple hours before the deadline. I'm a terrible procrastinator, so that's something I have to tell myself. And I guess second thing is don't get discouraged. We're here to help you. We've got a bunch of resources. We're so excited to read your application. So just know that we're like cheering you on and we're super excited.
So I like to sort of stress that you have to like sort of be open to having hard times and so that you can sort of it's going to be an emotional roller coaster your campaign because you have to meet all these new people and sort of have these videos or present videos at your school or talk with a lot of different people. So you have to accept that aspect that it's going to be hard and sort of continue moving on forward despite the challenges, because you have a mission that guides you throughout the way. And so you're actually doing something good for the environment. So that, I think, sort of being open to sort of challenges, they're going to help you grow as a person and mature. So that's also really important.
Those are such good answers. And I love that, Raúl, like even when it's really hard, you're still learning from it. It'll still pay off in the long run. And so I think that concludes our webinar for today. And if you have any more questions, you can reach out to us on Instagram at future.blue.youth.council. And then on email, we are futureblue@bowc.org, and I will try and make sure that those go in the little description of this webinar as well. And then, of course, there's everything on the website. There's our toolkits, there's our past webinars. There's going to be at least 3 more webinars coming up before August 1st. There's BowSeat's webinar. I know there's a really great one coming up. I don't think it's run by BowSeat, but it's with Brian Scarry and Linda Cabot, the founder of BowSeat, and that one's super interesting. There's also on the BowSeat website the resources and the gallery, so you can find more resources and be inspired by all of the past artwork from the BowSeat contests. And I think that's it. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.